All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dan. Great to be here with you Wednesday afternoon, 2 o'clock. And that was Mango Groove Special Star. Sound like a radio DJ. I'm sure you're all enjoying that. Good vibes. Impossible not to feel good after a song like that. Welcome to Jamie, Rowan. Welcome to Tracy. Welcome to Harrell. Welcome to everybody who's joining. Those names that I mentioned have put their where they're joining from in the chat. So we'd love to hear from you. I see Ellis Felkoff is here. Welcome to Ellis. Welcome to Ian Smith. Welcome to Stephen Zaggy and Elaine Zaggy. Welcome to Rowan Aaronstam. Some familiar names and faces. I can't see your faces because it's a webinar, but I can see your names and I can see what you post in the chat. So welcome to Karen from Josie as well. Is there anyone who's not in Joburg? I think most of the audience is, in fact, in Joburg. A huge thank you to Orchet, to Tracy and Paladi and the team at Orchet for once again giving us an opportunity to present some Excel content, some Excel sessions for you guys. And there's been a great response. Lots of people registering, and I see people are still joining. So welcome to everybody. This is going to be, if you've ever attended a session with us before, you know that it's always practical. It's hands-on. This is not Netflix and put your feet up and chill. This is down and dirty with Excel. All right. So that's how we're going to get the most value from this if we actually get our hands dirty. I know it's a bit chilly. It's middle of winter, but if you are brave enough, roll up your sleeves and let's get our hands dirty on Excel. And with that in mind, we've got some downloads for you. All right. So my partner Avi is with us today. He's been a little bit under the weather, but he is here. He might turn his camera on and say, how's it, over the course of the hour that we've got together. But Avi, thank you for posting the links in the chat as well as the folder. So you've got three options here. You can either open up the zipped folder from the chat. Avi has popped it in there in the Zoom chat. Alternatively, you can click on a Dropbox link or a WeTransfer link. I'm going to click on that WeTransfer link, and then I'm going to show you what I see. Share my whole screen. I'll take you through step by step. All right, so let's share screen here. Let's put Zoom on the left-hand side. Okay, get that out the way. Organize, do a bit of a corporate reshuffle here. All right, here we got our Zoom chat. And here we have the downloads. All right, so I'm going to click download, and within Google Chrome, our downloads appear here. All right, and I'm going to show in folder. All right, that's going to show me my downloads folder. It's actually a little bit busy. I must clean this up. But if I go into this zipped folder that I've just downloaded, here are the 5 items inside this zipped folder. All right, I'm in my File Explorer. Did you know that you can actually access the File Explorer by pressing Windows and the letter E, and that opens up a new window, which is your File Explorer, and then you can go to Desktop, Downloads, Documents, etc., etc. You can see I've got a whole lot of pinned folders and subfolders down the left-hand side, making it easy for me to navigate to certain folders or subfolders that I need, that I'm using currently or frequently. All right, you'll notice that we actually ran another session this morning. That was upskill, and then here is Orchet session 1 as well. All right. Okay, so, but where am I? I want to be in downloads, and I want to go back to this, which I just downloaded from that WeTransfer link. And you'll see there's an Excel file as well as 4 PDF documents. The keyboard shortcuts, you'll see that there's shortcuts for PC, Windows. There's one for Mac, and there's one for Google Sheets. Those of you who have attended any of our training before, you know how much we love this keyboard shortcut cheat sheet. All right, this has all of our favorite keyboard shortcuts. We're going to be going through a whole lot of these today. And the theme today, the focus today is really on Excel fundamentals. I know a lot of us want to learn VLOOKUPs, pivot tables, and fancy charts and fancy data analysis, but really it's so important to get those fundamentals in place before we build on that, because without the fundamentals, we've got a very shaky foundation and then the whole building can collapse. All right, so we're going to get those fundamentals right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this keyboard shortcuts PC cheat sheet. I know most of us are working on a PC, a Windows computer, and here we go. So this is the cheat sheet that I was holding up a moment ago. And you'll see here, I'm a keyboard person. That applies with all of our training, just not just Excel, but actually beyond Excel. If you become a keyboard person, you become a more efficient person with a work smarter approach. So we do want to encourage everybody to become keyboard people. We're going to be adopting a lot of the keyboard shortcuts today, and we're going to keep this open. And let's practice what we preach. If we actually look at the menu over here, you'll see under menu, we've got view, and then we've got read mode and full screen mode. So you'd see Adobe, I'm in Adobe Acrobat Reader to look at this PDF. You can see that it's helping me to learn the keyboard shortcuts. So I've got Control H for read mode and Control L for full screen mode. So what does that mean? Control H goes into read mode and Control L goes into full screen mode. Okay, I can zoom out. There you can see the zoom bar by holding Control and scrolling with the wheel on the mouse. All right, so zoom in and zoom out. Okay, so good idea to get comfortable with that. You'll see there's a bunch of navigation shortcuts, selection shortcuts, formatting cells, and then if we press right arrow, you can see that most of the letters of the English alphabet have a control shortcut. Isn't that nice? Control A, B, C, D, all the way through to Z. Most of them have a control shortcut. And here you can see the F keys as well. And this last shortcut on the list here is F12. We're going to be using that in a moment. But first, let's flip back to that zipped folder using Alt and Tab on the keyboard. We haven't even gotten into Excel yet, but we've already been learning a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts because really, as I mentioned, our training is about efficiency and confidence and productivity within Excel, but Excel exists in a Windows environment, and it's important to be comfortable with the Windows environment as a whole. All right. Okay, you'll notice here is the Excel file. So I'm navigating around this using up and down. And another great shortcut here is if you actually have a look at this view option at the top of your file explorer. You've maybe seen this before where you can see this as large icons or extra large icons or details. Okay, and you can actually press Control Shift and 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Okay, I'm holding down Control and Shift and using those numbers up at the top, and that changes my view, which is very useful. Sometimes if you're looking at photos, you might want to press Control Shift 1 to actually see those files as big, giant icons. But if you've got lots of documents there, you might want to see it as a detailed list. Control Shift and what was that? Control Shift and 6. Right, here you can see all these different fields relating to these documents. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to open up the spreadsheet, open up the Excel file, so I can stand on it and press enter or double click on it, and object session 1. Busy opening up. Computer's a little bit slow this afternoon. Okay, gives me a convenient chance to have a sip of my coffee. And on that note, let's have a look at what we've got, right? First thing we notice is we actually can't see the ribbon, and we get this yellow bar up at the top, and that's because it's actually explaining to us why we've got that. It says, be careful, files from the internet can contain viruses. I think we all agree that we're quite confident that this is safe. We've downloaded it from a trustworthy source, doesn't have a virus, so we can enable editing. And then we're going to see our ribbon, and we're going to see our data over here. And what we're going to see also is that we've got read only up at the top. By the way, it actually doesn't matter what version of Excel you're working on. I'm using Microsoft 365. That's Microsoft's annual subscription program where you pay an annual fee, and they're constantly updating and adding new features into the Microsoft Office suite. And you get, I think, some OneDrive storage space. And gone are the days where you had to go buy a disk at incredible connection. So Microsoft 365 is the way that they're really encouraging most people to go. And if your version of Excel looks slightly different, different colors, slightly different layout, don't worry. For today's session and next week's session, it's all good. It doesn't actually matter what version of Excel you're on. So it is all good. So there's a couple of things that we want to do before we actually start anything in this spreadsheet. And one of the first things is to actually save this in a location that makes sense, that is in the cloud, that is backed up, that is synchronized with my team. And in order to do that, we are going to press Alt and Tab, and then Tab again. You can see these are all the windows or applications that I've got active at the moment. So I hold down the Alt button with my left thumb, and then I press Tab as far as I want to go. If I just tap Alt Tab, that's just toggling me between the last two applications that I've been using. Similar concept to, I think, on the DSTV remotes, there's an Alt button, and then you can quickly alternate between your last two channels. Similar thing, nice and easy. You'll see that at the bottom of the second page of my cheat sheet, I've got F12, which is save as. Note that these F keys don't really work so well or at all on a Mac. So if those of you who are using Excel for Mac, you'll just need to do this manually or look at the equivalent on your Mac cheat sheet. Okay, so F12 or FN and F12. All right, so it might be on your keyboard that you need to hold down the FN key and F12. Now, I don't have an FN key on this keyboard, all right, because this is a big full-size keyboard. So if I was on my laptop, then I would have that FN key. So you just need to check on the settings of your function keys. All right, I'm going to press F12, and that opens up save as dialog box. All right, still thinking, pondering, contemplating life. Okay, there we go. You'll see that we are in the save as dialog box, but we've got a strange looking location over here. And that's because this was downloaded as part of a zipped folder. So we got this weird local temporary folder. We don't want to work there. We don't want to save our work there. That's not a good idea. It's not a safe and backed up place to save our work. So what we want to do is we want to save this somewhere on our computer. Now, guys, I've seen the messiest desktops in the world. A lot of people like to just save things on their desktop, and it just becomes cluttered and crazy. So instead of saving it on our desktop, you might want to save it in documents, but it is much better practice to actually save it in the cloud. All right. So you might use Dropbox. There you can see Excel Academy Dropbox. You might use OneDrive or Google Drive, whatever it is. Save it somewhere logical, somewhere that you can locate it easily in future, and somewhere where it's backed up to the cloud for you and for, getting a bit windy out here, and somewhere that's synchronized with your team as well. So I want to know that this is going to be synced with Avi. So I'm going to save this in a Dropbox folder. There you can see AutoJet 2024. There I can see the full location, and I'm saving it here. All right, so I'm going to save. I'm going to click on this because the file name, you can see it's put copy of. I'm going to save it with the same name. But what I'm going to do at the end, and this is very important, this is a concept called version control. I'm going to put DS at the end, and that's my little signature, my initials, and that's my way of reminding myself and my team that I've worked on this file. All right, so you might have a different convention, whatever that is. I've got today's date, and I've got the initials at the end, so that Avi knows, and I know, and anyone else in our team accessing this knows that it's not the original, it's the one that I've worked on. So there we go. Okay, now guys, we've got a big data set. We've got sheet 1, we've got sheet 2 sitting over here. So in sheet 1, we got, it looks like A to J, so that's 10 columns of data, a whole lot of data. We're going to be working with this, but not yet, because we are still working with Excel fundamentals. The focus of today's session is on the fundamental principles and concepts of working in Excel. And for those reasons, we are not going to dive in yet into this data. The focus of next week's session is on data analysis, where we're going to analyze this data and really make sense of it. So for today's purposes, what we want to do is we want to start off simple. We want to start off with a warm-up. All right, before running a race, it's important to warm up. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a new sheet tab. We can do that by clicking on this little plus button over here, and it puts sheet 3 over there. I can also delete that sheet if I don't want it there, just by right-clicking and deleting. I can also insert a sheet by right-clicking and saying insert. Okay, we're going to cancel, and we are going to show you the quickest way that I know of to insert a sheet tab is actually to press Shift and F11. All right, Shift and F11. Here we go. It's called it sheet 4. That's not a problem. It's stuck it in the middle of these two sheets. That's okay. I'm going to move it. Okay, you can just click and drag it, and I'm going to call it warm up. All right, so if this has a name now, sheet 1, we can give a name as well. So this is our data sheet. So I'm going to double click and call it data. And sheet 2 is actually an opportunity for us to have a look at a cool AI plugin. We're going to look at that next week. That's one of Avi's favorites. It's a sentiment analysis. This is some feedback that we got on our training, and we want to rank this on a scale of 1 to 10, for example, or a scale of 0 to 100. And we want a tool that's going to read the feedback and then give us a rating. So hopefully we'll have time for that next week. All right. And instead of sheet 2, I'm going to call it survey. Okay. Now I can switch between the different sheet tabs by using a cool keyboard shortcut, which is Control Page Down or Control Page Up. All right, let's take a look at our cheat sheet. You'll see that there it is, Control Page Down or Control Page Up. All right, so that's the shortcut for toggling between the different sheet tabs. And you can actually use that in Google Chrome as well. When you've got Google Chrome, you've got multiple tabs at the top. You can toggle between the different tabs. Let's have a look. All right, so let's say I had a second tab here. On my first tab, I can press Control Page Down and Control Page Up to go between the different tabs. All right, and remember, toggling between different windows, I use Alt and Tab. Okay, so there, Control and Page Up to go between the different tabs. All right, now it's time for us to get busy. You can't just watch me all day. Let's actually get our hands dirty on Excel. Let's get active here. What I'm going to do is just zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit clearer. And what I want you to do in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to start my timer in 10 seconds. In 10 seconds time. What I want you to do is create for me a list from 1 to 20 in column A. All right, a list from 1 to 20, and your time starts now. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, guys, in the chat, I want you to let me know who was able to create a list from 1 to 20 in just 10 seconds. Let me know in the chat. I see Charlene was asking if the session is recorded, and it is, and you will be sent a link to the recording. Amanda, well done. How did you create a list from 1 to 20? Is that what I said? 1 to 20. Yeah. How did you create a list from 1 to 20, Amanda? Okay, Julius, well done. You also were able to do that. Okay, let me know. Pop a message in the chat. How did you do it? Did you do it manually? 1, 2, 3, all the way down? Okay. Avi says got up to 11. Rowan says no. Okay. Entered 1 and 2, then highlighted and dragged. Well done, Amanda. Okay, Amanda says she entered 1 and 2, and then she went to the bottom right-hand corner. All right, and Julius did something similar. He did 1, 2, and 3. We go to the bottom right-hand corner. We notice how our mouse cursor changes shape. Okay, that's called the fill handle. In our Excel 101 course, we call it the overachiever, because look how fancy this is. Look how smart this is. We click and we drag, and there we go. There we've got a list from 1 to 20. Isn't that nice? All right. Could we have done this if I press Control Z, which is a really nice shortcut just to undo? Control Z in Excel and in any other program, Control Z to undo. We could have done 1, 2, and 3. Clicked and dragged. You can see the number, a preview over there as you drag. There we go. 1 to 20. Could we have, would this have worked if we had just dragged the number 1? Let's see. There you can see it's gone 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It copied the cells because it didn't realize that there was a sequence. All right, but the good news is you always get this autofill options in the bottom right-hand corner where you can choose to copy cells or fill series, and there's a few other options there. So if we say fill series, then Excel will automatically add 1 to each of these. Okay, so very smart, very intuitive, and even smarter, we'll see in the next column how Excel has a brain. All right, it's almost, this I guess is part of the artificial intelligence, that it learns and predicts what you want. And what we can do is we can use this feature for dates. Dates is something that we use very frequently when it comes to Excel. And people often struggle with this, the formatting of the dates and working with different dates. But when you start to understand Excel's brain, then it becomes really, really intuitive and useful and powerful. So in order to punch in today's date, what is it? It's the 19th of June. We can type that in manually by saying 19 June. Okay, and press enter if we want. We can do it like that, and you can see it formats it 19-June. It automatically assumes that we're dealing with 2024. You can see there's the full date in the formula bar, but I'm going to undo that with Control Z. I'm going to save a bit of time and effort and also prevent making a mistake by just pressing Control and semicolon, Control and semicolon to automatically type in today's date. Press enter, and it's formatted it like that. Yours might be slightly different, but that's okay. 19 June 2024. All right, so that's great. Some of you might have been thinking that we could use equals today. So let's have a look here. What am I talking about? Equals TO. Now we're getting onto a more advanced subject, which is Excel's functions. All right, and you can see if I start typing in equals and then TO, you can see that I've got 3 functions that start with the letters TO. I've got total, today, and toro. Okay, I've never actually seen those or used those, but that's okay. I'm only interested in today for now. That there's a little pop-up that says returns the current date formatted as a date. I can activate that particular function by pressing tab on the keyboard. There you can see that I don't need to put anything inside the brackets of this particular function. I just say equals today, bracket, bracket, press enter, and there we go. It puts in today's date as well. It widens the column to fit it in, and it looks identical to B1. All right, here I'm in cell B1, and here I'm in cell C1. The only difference is, it's a very important difference. Look at the formula bar over here. There, I've got it hard-coded into the formula bar, and here I've got it as a function. All right, and the big difference is that a function is dynamic. That means that when we open up the spreadsheet tomorrow, the one that's hard-coded, that will always say 19 June. The one that has a formula or a function in this case will tick over to the 20th of June when we open up the spreadsheet tomorrow. So it depends. Neither is right or wrong. Just depends on what you want. In our case, we can delete that, and we can in fact undo Control Z, Control Z. Okay. I'm interested in today's date hard-coded. We didn't have to manually type it because we used a shortcut, but when it's got an actual value there, as opposed to a formula with an equal sign, it means it's hard-coded. Okay, that's a very important concept when it comes to Excel. It's been hard-coded, so it's not dynamic. It's static, and it's frozen there as 19 June. Okay, what I wanted to show you is that we can use this fill handle to drag down all the way or as far as we want. Okay, as you see there, we're busy dragging down. We get a preview, 24th of June, 25th, 26th, all the way down to day number 20, which is the 8th of July. But I can save time once again by pressing, if I just press Control Z, I can go back to this bottom right-hand corner, and instead of clicking and dragging, look how it magically fills the list if I just double click. All right, it auto fills it down all the way to the end of the list. How far does it go down? How does it know how far to go? It matches the length of the list on the left. So it sees 20 cells on the left, so it goes 20 cells down. All right, so that's very intuitive indeed. And then once again, we've got our autofill options. And this time, because we're dealing with dates, you see even more options over here. So what we can do is we can do days, weekdays. All right, that means that it's going to skip over the weekends. So that might be something work related where you just want to record actual work days. All right, it's not going to be aware of public holidays unless you program that in, but that's a different topic for another day. All right, and we could do months. So this is useful as well, because we might want to have a cell or a row for the 19th of June, then 19th of July, August, September. So you can see the month field is changing here, or years. So we might want the 19th of June this year, then next year, next year, next year, and so on. Okay, so it really gives you full flexibility. Excel is very smart like this. It's got a built-in calendar and very, very useful indeed. Okay. Next step is, what is the day of the week today? All right, it is in fact Wednesday. We could write the entire day Wednesday, or we could just do WED, and we can double click down and have a look at that. We've got Wednesday, Thursday, all the way through. Okay, so very useful once again. What month are we in now? We're in June. All right, and we can apply this same principle to months. If we double click down, there we go, it goes all the way down. But now our data is not actually making sense, because this row is June, and this one's also June. It's June all the way to the 30th of June. So what we might want here is to drag that down to there, okay? And instead of filling series, we can copy cells. So you'll see every time you use this fill handle, you get the autofill options. Okay, and then this one, okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to say this is July. And we can double click that down and then also once again say copy cells. All right. Okay, so these are some of the fundamentals of Excel. This is crucial that you understand this and that we work smart and we let Excel do a lot of the work for us, because what it means is we're going to save huge amounts of time and we're going to prevent errors. And in all our training, we emphasize those two aspects time and time again, over and over, because we do want to work smart. We want to be saving time and we want to make sure that our work is accurate and prevent the finger trouble. Spreadsheet errors can cost organizations big time. All right, and big money. Okay. All right, so a couple more concepts and ideas to talk about here. What happens if I want to jump quickly to the top of my data? All right, I can press Control and the up arrow, and that teleports me. We call it the teleporter key because it jumps us all the way to the top or the bottom, or the left or the right. So Control and the arrow keys to teleport to the top, bottom, left, or right of our data. Let's have a look at our cheat sheet. That's the very first shortcut on our cheat sheet. We've got Control and the arrow keys. We've also seen Control page up or Control page down. All right. If we want to select all the data, we can press Control A. All right. Why would we want to select all the data? Well, we might want to put borders in the data. All right, so how do we do borders? You can see I've actually got it on my quick access toolbar. Your quick access toolbar might appear on the top left, the very, very top left of your ribbon or of your screen, and that's okay. If I right click on mine, I can actually say show quick access toolbar above the ribbon, and there it is. That's what we're used to seeing. Okay, for most of us. You probably have a little save icon. It's that old floppy or stiffy disk. I don't know, so long ago I can't even remember which one is which. Maybe you remember floppies and stiffies. That's the save icon. All right, I don't need it. I actually have removed it from my quick access toolbar because instead of clicking that button, I know that it's Control S. Most of us know and use Control S for save. And speaking of, it's a good idea to get into that habit. Control S, I've just saved. And you probably have that undo button and the redo button. Those are the three default buttons on the quick access toolbar. I've removed all of them because I know that I've got Control S, Control Z, and Control Y. So why have the buttons on the quick access toolbar if I can just access them even quicker and easier using the keyboard shortcuts? So what I've done for my quick access toolbar is I've put buttons and features up here that I use quite frequently that don't have control shortcuts. For example, all borders. You might want to put all borders over here, and I've just put it on my quick access toolbar as the first button there. I actually prefer my quick access toolbar being below the ribbon. So I'm going to right click and say show it below the ribbon, because then I can see the icon and the name of the feature. All right, so this is all borders. And you guys are going to absolutely love this next feature that I'm going to show you within Excel. And this works in all Microsoft programs. It's the magic which key. Which key am I talking about? Who knows? Which key do I press on the keyboard? That's going to activate the entire ribbon. It's going to change the way that I work. That's going to render my mouse almost useless. All right, we've got a saying, a hashtag at Excel Academy, mouse must fall. All right, so we don't need the mouse if we know this one key. Anybody have an idea of which key I'm talking about? Let's keeping one eye on the Zoom chat over there. Any idea which key will activate the shortcuts on the ribbon? All right, it is, I'll give you a clue. I've just pressed it. Any idea what I just pressed? I'm asking you questions so that I make sure that you're still alive, awake, alert, and enthusiastic. And I want to have another sip of my coffee before it gets too cold. All right, so Marche, I don't know how to pronounce that. Marche Kochelenberg says enter. All right, thank you. Good idea. Thanks for your feedback. It's not enter. In fact, it's alt. It's a magic alt key. There we go. Helene. I think Helene's been on some of our training before, so she remembers the magic alt key. Helene, shout out to you. Thanks for popping that into the chat. So the magic Alt key, it activates the entire ribbon and it helps us to navigate quickly to any feature that we want. And remember, this is in Excel and in any other program on Microsoft. You can't use this on a Mac. No magic Alt key. So in this case, what do I want to do? I want to put all borders. So I want to press Control A because I need to select all the data. So I stood in my data, I press Control A, and that selects all my data. And then you'll see that all borders for me is on the quick access toolbar. It's also in this drop down of borders. So if you want to put it on your quick access toolbar, you just right click on it and you say add to quick access toolbar. That's what I've done over there. So for me, I now press Alt and then I press the number 1 because the number 1 for me is all borders. I could go to the home tab using the letter H, and then I could go to my borders menu by pressing B for borders, and then I could press A for all borders. So I can go Alt H B A, but it's much quicker, isn't it? If I put my all borders on the quick access toolbar and I press Alt 1. Now, guys, this might seem a bit complicated and a bit over your head, but trust me, I use this all the time. So does Avi. And it's a real game changer. So it takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of getting used to, but it really is a huge, huge efficiency gain when you start to use Alt instead of relying on the mouse. And speaking of this, I've got another shortcut that I can show you here. I have put the View Grid Lines button on my quick access toolbar. If I go to the View tab, sometimes the formula bar disappears. Dan, Avi, help. My formula bar is gone. Help. Okay, the reason it's gone is because you need to go to the View tab and you need to go to the Show group over here and you need to just reactivate it. There it is. All right, so we just tick that box and there's the formula bar. Speaking of things disappearing, sometimes people freak out completely when their ribbon disappears. And that's because a click and a double click is actually very different in this case. If you double click on any of the tabs, it collapses your ribbon. Your ribbon has disappeared. Where's my ribbon, guys? Where's it gone? It is partially hidden. We can show it if we click on one of the tabs, but then it goes away again. So you must just double click on it again. Right, and you'll notice over here that you can always show the ribbon. Okay, or you can show tabs only. All right, there we go. It's taking a second or two. My computer's hanging a little bit today. And there's actually a keyboard shortcut for that, which is Control and F1 to show or hide the ribbon. All right, and we can also show or hide grid lines. Sometimes we want to get rid of these grid lines. We don't have to select all of them and paint them in white. Sometimes people do this. They select all the cells and then they paint in white like this. Okay, guys, we don't have to do that. It's not a good idea. In fact, I'm going to undo that. We also don't need to take typics on the screen. I trust none of us will be doing that. What we do instead is we say view and we untick where it says grid lines. Okay, and that might be a lot cleaner and neater in your opinion. We often prefer to do this. It just makes it look cleaner, neater, and more presentable. So there we go. We have hidden the grid lines and I could activate that by pressing Alt. And for me, it's the number 6. So there we go. Alt 6 toggles it on and off. All right. Alt 6. Okay. Again, Alt and 6. There we go. Okay, once again, save our work with Control and S. All right, another important concept, guys, is the ability to insert a row or insert a column or delete a row or delete a column. So what we want to do is maybe we want headers here at the top of our data. So what we can do is we can stand at the very top of our data and we can do it the old school way. There's nothing wrong with this. We can take our mouse, we can right click on the top row and we can say insert. And that inserts a row. Nothing wrong with that at all. Or we can press Control Z and we can start to become more of a keyboard person. We can stand at the top there. We can press Shift and Spacebar, Shift and Spacebar to select the entire first row. All right. And then we can insert a row by pressing not Control I, because that's going to make everything italics. Instead of that, we're going to do Control and Shift and plus, or Control Shift equals. All right, so why Shift equals? Because Shift equals is the plus sign on my keyboard next to the backspace. Or I could just do Control and plus, which is if I've got a big keyboard, the big plus button on the far right-hand side. So if you've got a big keyboard, you can use that, Control and the big plus key, or alternatively on any keyboard, you can press Control, Shift, and equals. There we go. Avi, as always, is on the ball, on the pulse. He's posting it all in the chat for you. So you're hearing me, you're seeing it on the cheat sheet as well, and you're seeing it appear in the Zoom chat. All right, engaging all the senses. Okay, so I've now inserted a row up at the top. All right, and now I can put in my column headings depending on what I want here. I might want number, all right, then date, then day, and then month. All right, there we go. We've now got our headers up at the top, but now we want to format these. So what can we do? We can actually select all 4 of these quickly and easily. We could use our mouse to click and drag. We could also stand on A1 and then press Shift right, okay, as far as we want to go. Or we can do it even quicker in one foul swoop by pressing Control and Shift and the right arrow. Hold down Control and Shift and the right arrow, and that lets me select quickly all the way to the end of the data in that particular row. So let's go over that again. If we just press Control right or left, it just jumps us to the right or to the left. If we press Shift, it selects along the way. And if we press Control, Shift, and the right arrow, it does both. It selects and it jumps. Okay, so that's very useful indeed. And what do we want to do with these headers? We might want to make them bold. With Control B, we might want to underline them. We might want to center them. We can go to the Home tab, and we might want to center the text. Center your content. We also want to put all borders. So I can press there on all borders or on the quick access toolbar. And maybe we want to put in a background color. All right, so maybe we want a what, like a light bluish color for the headings, so we can see that they're headings. And there we go. We've now got something which looks a lot neater, tidier, and that's our warm-up. We can now press Control S. All right, and what can we do now? We can now move over to our data sheet. All right, once again, Control and the down arrow, sorry, not Control the down arrow, Control and page down to navigate us to a different sheet. All right. Oh, some high winds coming up. That's why my door slammed in 2 hours' time. Nice little weather update in the bottom left. By the way, I remember we ran a face-to-face in-person session at Houghton Golf Club a few years back, and I asked the room, I asked the audience, how do you navigate between the sheets? All right, one gentleman put his hand up and he said, very well, you can ask my wife. Okay, so that was quite comical. And navigating between the Excel sheets is quick and easy for everyone. All right, we do that using Control page up and Control page down, as I said and as I showed you earlier as well. We can now zoom into this data because it's a little bit small. We don't want to be squinting our eyes to see what's going on here. We zoom into our data using holding down the Control key and pressing or scrolling up or down with the wheel on the mouse. So holding the Control key, scrolling up or down with the wheel on the mouse. Okay, and now we can see our data a bit better. Now we can use some of the shortcut keys that we've learned in our warm-up to really understand what we're dealing with here. So we've got lots of data. We said we've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns. How many rows of data? Okay, in this case, this is going to help us enormously to quickly see how much data we've got using the shortcut that I showed you a few moments ago, which was Control and the down arrow. Look at that. I mentioned that it's the teleporter. And if you were impressed when I showed you on the warm-up sheet, you're even more impressed now with the teleporter key because it's jumped us down to row number 14839. All right, and that would have taken us a long, long time to scroll down manually. Okay, so Control and the down arrow or Control and the up arrow to navigate us around the spreadsheet. All right, and we can actually see how far Excel goes down to the end of the Excel world if we press Control and the down arrow key again. As you can see, it takes us to 1,048,576. Okay. All right. By the way, Control page up and Control page down, you might need to press function in there as well. It's depending on your keyboard. Sometimes the page up and page down is shared with the up and down arrow keys. So just check on your keyboard. You might need to add in the FN key there. All right. What I want to do now is I want to navigate to the original cell, the cell number A1 of my spreadsheet. I want to go home, in other words. All right. So what do we do in Waze or in Google Maps? We want to go home. We've got a home address saved. We press home and it takes us the fastest, quickest, shortest route home. So we're going to do something similar here, control and home. And once again, your home key, I think on my laptop keyboard, yeah, I'm just looking at my laptop over here. The home button is actually shared with the left arrow. Okay, so once again, depending on your layout of your laptop keyboard, you might need to press control function left arrow. Okay, so it's control home, and that takes us home. Control end is the opposite of that. That takes us to the last cell that we've used, which in this case is J14839. Okay, so control home and control end. All right, now guys, let's have a quick look once again at our cheat sheet. You can see control and the arrow keys. We've seen page up or page down. Let's have a quick look at that. You're probably familiar with page up, page down. Okay, it jumps us one screen view at a time, down or up. All right, and then we saw control home and control end. We just saw that, control page down and control page up. All right, we saw shift spacebar to select an entire row. The opposite of shift spacebar is control spacebar to select an entire column. And then we saw shift and the arrow keys and control shift and arrow keys. We also saw control A, which is to select all the data. All right, so we really have covered a lot of the keyboard shortcuts already. All right, we're going to have a look at these maybe later today or next week, depending on how much time we've got, the formatting shortcuts. And then these alphabetical ones we've already seen. Control A to select all, Control B for bold. You guys should know Control C is copy. And we saw Control S for save and insert today's date. We saw that one as well, Control and semicolon. All right, we also saw F12 to save as. So we've seen quite a few shortcuts already. Okay, so now we've got an idea that we've got just under 15,000 rows of data. We've got 10 columns. And what do we do now? Where do we even start when it comes to working with this data, analyzing this data? All right, maybe let's take a deep breath and actually just work out what are we actually looking at here? What data is this? Okay, so this is an export of data from our learning system. All right, and you can see here it's showing us first name, last name, mobile number, and then this column shows us progress. This column shows us which course this person is on. Then it shows us how many times the person has signed in. Okay, it says sign in co, and that's because it's getting cut off. It says sign in count if we look in the formula bar. Then we got last activity, SAST, member since, and then organization. Now we've randomized this data, so don't worry. We're not getting caught out with puppy here. These are not real people. We took the names and surnames and jumbled them, and we put in random fictitious mobile numbers, and we just randomized this as well with a list of the FTSE 1,000 top companies in the States. All right, and the reason here, the purpose here, the reason we've done this is because we wanted to give you an example, a real life case study of where we've got a large data set. We want to try understand what's going on in the data, to analyze the data, to visualize it, and to get insights so that we can make smarter decisions. All right, so the topic of next week's session is data analysis, and we're going to be deep diving into this data next week, but we've been doing really well for time today. We've still got another 15 minutes until the hour is up. So we may as well make the most of these 15 minutes, and we're going to do some preliminary steps in analyzing this data. All right, I'm going to press Control S, even though I don't know what I've done since the last time I pressed Control S. You can't do it too much. It's always a good idea just to save our work, Control S. Right, now guys, what I'm going to show you now is a real game changer. Okay, it's a real game changer when it comes to working with data. All right, and this game changer is a keyboard shortcut that I'm going to show you, and a feature up on the ribbon which helps us to work with a data set. Okay, how does it help us? It's going to make the data easier to read more professional, more presentable, and more intuitive to work with. Okay, so what am I talking about? If I go up to the Insert tab on the ribbon, you'll see I can insert lots of different things. Could be a bit overwhelming, so let's try and work out what's going on here. We've got group names. These are group names. This is tables. This is illustrations. Then we got charts. We got tours. Wow, we could do a 3D map tour. Wow, that sounds cool. What's that all about? And you can see it's got geographic data on a 3D map. Okay, maybe we can look at that at another stage. That's beyond this this afternoon's session. But the point I want to show you here is that this helps us just to navigate our way around this often confusing ribbon. So I've got spark lines, I've got filters, links, comments, text, symbols. Okay, we're not interested in any of that stuff for now. What we are interested in is this group over here, which says tables. All right, pivot table, what's that all about? All right, a pivot table is a summary of our complex data. So we could agree that this is complex data and it might be nice to have a summary. All right, so we're going to look at that next week. For now, by the way, this is Excel's way of recommending pivot tables. So this is an AI feature within Excel, which we can look at next week as well. But for now, have you ever noticed this button over here, table? What is this all about? It says table. Notice that there's a shortcut there which says Control and T. It says create a table to organize and analyze related data. And it says it makes it easy to sort, filter, and format data within a sheet. And then it says, tell me more, tell me more. All right. And if we click there, what happens? All right. That's Excel's help feature, which appears on the right-hand side. And for some reason, I'm having a bit of an issue there that it's not coming up, but that's okay. Did say I must check my connection. I'm assuming my connection is still okay. For some reason, the help feature over there didn't want to work, but that's okay. What I can do is I can just click this button, or I can use the keyboard shortcut Control T. All right, I'm going to use Control T, and what's going to happen? I notice that I get a little pop-up, and the pop-up says create table, and it says where's the data for your table. It's automatically selected the entire data set, which is from cell A1 all the way down to J14839. All right, I've got a green dashed box, dashed line around all my data. Used to move, we used to call it marching ants. Okay, but now it's static, but it's okay. It does the same thing. It's just showing me the scope of the range. And then it says my table has headers, which is true. So Excel's identified that I do have headers, and I can click OK. Okay, so wow. All right, collective, wow. Isn't that cool? Look what it's done. Let's have a look. All right, it's selected all the data and it's applied special formatting and it's put it into what's known as a table in Excel. All right. Tables in Excel, as it said on the Insert tab, it organizes and it says create a table to organize and analyze related data. It makes it easy to sort, filter, and format data within a sheet. So speaking of sort and filter, it's actually put in sort and filter buttons. So for example, we can see here how many unique items I've got in my course column. I've got Excel 101, 202, 303, and then Outlook secrets. All right, so I can sort and filter very easily. It's put in those sort and filter buttons. And it's also made it a whole lot easier to read because I've got nice formatting. I've got blue headers, well, blue fill and white bold text. And then I've got blue and white alternating rows. So it's just a whole lot easier to read and to work with. Right, and over the course of the rest of today and next week, we're going to be working with this data in this mode. It's going to make life a whole lot easier for us. We need to notice that we've got a table design tab up at the top of the ribbon. Table design tab. Okay, table design tab, which appears at the top of the ribbon when I'm in the table, only when I'm in the table. Right, so if I click outside of the table, it actually goes away. Okay, so as soon as I'm back in the table, table design, and it's a contextual tab. It appears only in context. Okay, so only when I'm in context. It's a similar concept to if you're on a pivot table or an image or a picture or a shape or whatever it is. That's an object sitting on your spreadsheet or sitting in your spreadsheet. And when you've got that object selected, you get a whole lot of features. Okay, with a chart, it's the same thing. You get features up at the top of the ribbon, and that's called a contextual tab. Okay, if it goes away, it means you're outside of that particular object. Okay, so table design. Now we've got blue and white, which is very nice, but you might prefer gray and white stripes like that. So you can pick and choose from the different styles over here. You can get a preview if you just hover your cursor over it. And what you can do as well is you can turn these banded rows on and off. All right, I think banded rows make it a whole lot easier to read. You can format the first column if you want to, or the last column. You can play around with all these settings. All right, and you can turn the filter buttons on and off as well. Okay, the header row, for whatever reason, you might want to hide or show the headers. Okay, so that's that. And once again, we might want to hide the grid lines. So we can untick that, and there our grid lines disappear. Now we want to save our work with Control S because we've made a major change here. It wasn't hard work. We just press Control T and enter, but we want to save our work now. And the next thing we want to do is activate the total row. This is a brilliant, brilliant feature, which helps us to analyze our data. And I'm going to show you how this works in a moment. But first, we're in the habit of looking for keyboard shortcuts. So I see here Control and Shift and T. And this is to turn on or off the total row of the table. It's a row at the end of the table which displays totals for each column. Okay, so that sounds pretty cool and useful. Control Shift T, and there we go. We've jumped to the bottom of our data. And what it's got is a special total row. All right, if I were to turn it off, there we go, it goes away. And I switch it back on by ticking that box, and there we go. Okay, our total row is very, very, very useful indeed, because have a look here. What it's done in this last column is it has counted up. We've got a drop-down list, and it says count. So what it's done is it's counted up how many items there are in my last column. It can't add up a bunch of words, all right? So it's counted them up. But if we have a progress column, we're going to get to this in a moment, that we want to format these numbers so they are percentages. But you'll see here, we might want to see the average progress for all these people doing our courses. All right, and we can simply click on this drop down and select average from the list. All right, so isn't that brilliant? We didn't need a calculator. We didn't need to punch in a fancy formula. We just selected average from the list. And this is because we're in table mode. We're using the total row, and it's very intuitive. All right, and what's great as well about a table is many, many things. All right, we really love tables, and we'll be, as I said, we're working in table mode now, and we'll be continuing next week as well. We've got another 6 or 7 minutes left. But in table mode, we can see the column headers are actually still there. What's going on here? We've got first name, last name, mobile number. What did we expect? When we scroll down, typically, we lose the headings, and then we don't see the column headings. We just see ABC. That's what we're used to, unless we freeze panes. But because we're in a table, when we have scrolled down, but we're in table mode, we see these column headings instead of the A, B, and C. All right, so here we've got first name, last name, mobile number, and we've also got the sort and filter buttons. So isn't this brilliant? And what you'll see here is that our overall total progress is 0.879, which is 87.9%. If we were to filter the data according to course, so we don't want to see everyone, we want to see only the people who are doing Excel 101. We click OK, and you can see that our total changes. So our overall progress, our average progress for the entire group was 0.879, but now for the Excel 101 people, it's 0.88. And that would not be the case if we had used a traditional Excel formula that said equals average, because that would have calculated the entire list regardless of whether we filtered or not. But because we're in a table mode in the total row, and we've picked from a drop down, it's using the subtotal function, and you don't need to know how that works and why it's there. What you do need to know is that you can just pick different calculations from the drop down, and it will automatically recalculate if you filter the data. Okay, so very, very useful and intuitive indeed. And here's another visual cue that you filtered your data, a reminder, can't miss it. You see these big blue numbers on the left of the screen. That means your data has been filtered. Another cue, is the funnel in the filter button. Okay, you can get rid of this filter by clicking on the drop down and then saying clear filter from this course. All right. Now, guys, before we end off today, let's format these numbers, because it will make our lives easier. It will make the data easier to read and to understand. It will tell a better story. We always want to tell a story using our data, and the data needs to be formatted. Okay, so instead of these general numbers, which are saying 1 or 0.95, 0.94, 0.72, and so on, we want to format these as percentages. So if we click there, or we hover our cursor, we see percent style, control, shift, and percent, and that's gone and formatted that particular cell in percentage format. But we've committed a cardinal sin. Okay, the cardinal rule over here is, it's actually one of Excel's 10 commandments in the Excel for Dummies book. It says you've got to select your data first. Okay, so I'm going to undo with Control Z, and it says it actually at the back of the Excel for Dummies book in a very biblical English. It says, thou shalt select thy data. All right, so you've got to select your data before doing something to the data. So we're going to press Control and Spacebar. Earlier today, we saw Shift Spacebar to select an entire row. And now we're pressing Control Spacebar to select an entire column. Right, Spacebar. It's where the aliens go to have a drink after a long, busy day, the spacebar. Okay, it's also the biggest key on your keyboard. You can't miss it, Control Spacebar. And I can press it again to include the total row. Have a look here. If I press it once, it selects all the data. Press it again, it then includes the total row. And then you will see here Control, Shift, and percentage. Control, Shift, and percentage to select to format the entire column in percentage style. All right, Control, Shift, and 5, or percentage. Okay, now we've got percentage, and we're happy with no decimal places in the table, but actually would be nice to see 1 or 2 decimals in the total row over here instead of just seeing 88%. So we can increase, yeah, there we go, 87.92. Okay. And on this topic, okay, we still have 2 minutes. Let's finish off quickly with Control Spacebar for the last activity column. And somebody can pop us a message in the chat. What are these? What's this data over here in the last activity column? These 44,000 and something, 43,000 and something. These should be formatted as what? Pop us a message in the chat. Let us know. Last activity, these should be. Okay, dates. These should be formatted as dates, and we can do that quickly and easily using Control, Shift, and the number 3 on our keyboard. And we can do the same thing for member since. Okay, the member since column, we can press Control Spacebar and Control Shift 3, all right, to format as dates. The SAST column, that is a time column, that's time data. In other words, the time of day that this person was last active. So Control Spacebar once again, and then Control Shift and the number 2. All right, let's toggle back to our cheat sheet, and you'll be glad to know that we've got our Control Shift 5, 3, and 2 over there, and there's 4 for currency, 1 for number, and squiggle for general. All right, we'll revise this next week as well. Don't worry, it's 2:59, so we're going to wrap up here. I'm going to press Control and S and join us next week. Why? Because next week we're going to be continuing our work on this data. We're going to be analyzing the data. We are going to be formatting these mobile numbers. We're also going to be spacing out our data so that this data doesn't spill over the edge here. And then importantly, we're going to analyze this data so that we can ask questions about the data and answer the questions using nice pivot tables and pivot charts. So we're going to visualize and summarize the data in a nice dashboard. So you don't want to miss it. Next week is going to be action-packed. We're going to be creating a pivot table, a pivot chart. We're going to be slicing and dicing the data in different ways, and we're going to be getting insights and intelligence into the data. All right, and all of this stuff, hopefully, all of it or most of it, you're already thinking, the cogs are turning. How can you apply these skills in your day-to-day work? All right, so guys, before you log off, I know the clock has just struck 3 o'clock. Before you log off, I want you to pop us a message in the Zoom chat. Let us know, how did you find today's session? Did you find it useful? Were there shortcuts or features or tools that were real game changers for you. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you in the chat before you go. And Odette says, thank you. Lisa says, thank you. And Dan and Avi, this is great. Elaine says, great, thanks so much. What was your favorite? What was your favorite tool or shortcut that we covered today? Oh, and you got reactions as well. Someone was clapping their hand. You can use a reaction here. You can do this if you want. You can love to see what, and we'd love to see and read what you guys thought. Laura, excellent, definitely stuff I will be able to use. Thank you. Helene says, thank you. It was excellent as always. Learn more every time. Okay, brilliant. Melanie says, thank you, most useful and helpful. Lisa says, the table, no need to freeze rows, total end row and features. Great. Rowan Aronstam, good to see you. You've said very insightful. All right, I see there's something in the, oh, Tracy said in the Q&A, amazing, so useful, lots of game changers. Excellent, excellent. Okay, guys, thank you.